You have had access to some incredibly successful people, namely, Kiss and Eminem jump off the page. What have you seen from them that has allowed them to be truly successful?
No plan B. Every one of them has no other plan. It is, I'm gonna make it. And so whether they may move that goal of what making it is, I think that's fair. That's called aging. It is. They never take their eye off the ball that way. They never go, oh, well, if not, I could just go be an accountant. Like it's not in them. I was doing a lot of work with the WWE for a little bit. And I think it's fascinating that what makes them special often is a reason that could lead to their downfall also. It's if you don't readjust that goal, you continue on that voracious path that made you better at what you did versus your competition. But if you aren't growing, if you're too addicted to that hunger, or you're too unable to assess that you've reached that goal and you can start to, level that off a little bit, then oftentimes what makes you special can lead to your downfall too.
Welcome to Limitless Minds, the podcast where curiosity meets greatness. If you're ready to discover what it takes to be truly limitless and push beyond your own limits, you're in the right place.
Welcome, everybody, to the Limitless Minds podcast. I'm not Harry Wilson, and that is not DJ Idson.
It's not. Definitely not. This is Joshua Lifrak, and that over there is Travis L. Thomas.
Oh, I am. Thanks for recognizing the L, Josh. I appreciate that.
Thomas. My pleasure.
We might not be Harry and DJ, but we are Limitless Minds royalty, Josh. We have been with Limitless Minds from the get-go.
Self-declared, by the way. Self-declared Limitless Minds royalty.
It's the best kind of role. I said, come on, we live in America.
Taking the crown. Let's go.
Yeah. Just name yourself. And we're really excited, Josh. Josh and I are both sort of head coaches for Limitless Minds. And we get to spend most of our time, Josh, out working with some of the best organizations in the world. In our personal lives, we get to work with some of the best athletes and some of the best teams in the world. And so we're constantly out there sort of seeing where the rubber meets the road. And you came up with a fantastic idea for a summer series for Limitless Minds. Josh and Harry, hey, they need to recharge their batteries a little bit.
DJ and Harry, I also need to recharge, but I'm not. I'm grinding. Unlike those lackeys, we're out here grinding.
So we're doing them a big favor, right? We're doing DJ and Harry a big favor, just so that they understand that. We wanted to be on record and understand that.
Yes.
And one of the things that you hear probably said on this podcast quite a bit, you will hear it from our co-founder, Russell Wilson. You would hear it from in the writings and the videos of our co-founder, Trevor Moawad. And Josh, that is success leaves clues. What does success leaves clues mean to you?
Yeah. So for me, it's kind of interesting. I do you remember Beyond the Music? I think it was called Beyond the Music. It was like this MTV series back in the day, and they would track the careers of famous artists. So when I was a kid, I loved that show. And the part that I loved was how those people made it. What was the keys for them to be highly successful? And then, inevitably there was a crash and things of that nature. And I was always just like, okay, get me to minute 22 of that documentary, of that hour-long documentary. Because that's when they make it. And I was always kind of obsessed with that, and always kind of obsessed with what is this thing success, and how do people obtain it on a daily basis? So that's kind of the underpinnings of all this. I've always just been very curious with people that are highly successful. And and so I was like, hey, Travis, you and I have known each other for way too long. We've never done a pod before. Let's just do a pod together during this period. And DJ and Harry were they needed to hit the reset button a little bit, spend some time with the fam and have a vacation. So let's do it. And for me though, like what success is, that's a whole different beast. And I'm really curious about people's definitions of success. And that's what we're going to do over this podcast. Is we're going to interview different people from different lanes. We're going to talk about that in just a second, but success can mean different things to different people. So I'm looking for the differentialities, and I'm really, really curious about the similarities as well.
Yeah.
So that's really what I want to investigate over this next 4 episodes.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. Just seeing, because I think it's easy to think that that what athletes do, or what musicians do, or what executives do, or what anyone who's a high performer, it's easy to look at that and say, well, that's different. What they do is different than what this person does, or what this or what I do. And I think what you and I sort of discover and see on a day-to-day basis is that the field might be different, but as Trevor would say, it takes what it takes, right? There's a consistency in behaviors that we can show. And it's almost like I want to create a Venn diagram, right? Where it's like, what are those behaviors that all of performance sort of overlaps in these specific areas, which is why, it'll be fun to see as we interview these amazing people, what is the clue, right? What's the clue or clues for each one that kind of stood out that you can see sort of having resonance elsewhere.
Yeah. And what's that clue we can apply to our own lives?
That's absolutely it. And it's like, Josh, I know that like you are working with high performers every day, and as coaches, we get to work with teams and high performers all the day. And it's like every time I had a coaching call this morning, and every time I have a coaching call, it teaches me something. Even though I'm the coach, it teaches me something that I can then not only help that person, but hopefully apply and help someone else with. And, we're also trying to live the principles and ideas that Limitless Minds stands on. And if we're not doing that, then, we're kind of lousy practitioners to be telling others to do the same thing, which brings me, Josh.
Yeah, I was going to do the transition, but you got it. You jumped it. You got it. Go.
It brings me to our first ever Success Leaves Clues Nooch Nuggets, Josh. Nooch Nuggets. We're waiting for Purdue or some other chicken company to sponsor this segment called Nooch Nuggets, where you and I share how we've either gotten neutral or we have helped someone get neutral in our day-to-day lives. So, Josh, what do you got? Nooch Nuggets.
So first of all, I love the transition, because what Travis was talking about is living the principles, right? And so the major principle and the kind of the foundation of everything we do at Limitless Minds is what we have termed neutral thinking. It's copyrighted by Trevor Moad, so it's what but now it's we termed. But what neutral thinking is dealing with the concrete and objective facts without judging or grading, right? And so that's going to be a big key thing. So how do I get neutral? How do I use that neutral mindset? So funny story. I'm flying back. My wife and I celebrated our 21st anniversary.
Congratulations. Let's go.
This past weekend. Thank you.
Success Leaves Clues.
So yeah, right. There's some success in there. We've had a lot of fun and a lot of ups and downs, but mostly ups. So really, really joyous occasion. Had a great time. We're out in Sonoma, California, in wine country. And we get to spend a couple days out there with good friends and just each other and just have a great time. And we're flying home from San Francisco. We're supposed to get home we're leaving San Francisco about 11:30 in the morning, and we're supposed to get home around 10 p.m. at night. I need to drive my son to basketball camp the next day. He's going to a sleepover camp up in the St. Pete, Tampa area. And so I need to drive him up there around 11 o'clock in the morning to make sure he gets there. We get on the first flight, no problem, check in, everything's great. As we're walking in, I see a maintenance guy walk off the plane. Dum, dum, dum.
Yeah,
not making pre-assumptions, but just like a little red flag. Beep.
Yeah.
And then sure enough, the captain gets on, hey, we found a leak. We're going to investigate it. It's going to take us a little bit of time, but we'll get back to you. We don't want to deplane until we absolutely have to, but there's a chance. At this point, we have an hour and a half between flights. Once we get to Atlanta, go switch over. Mm-hmm. Captain comes back on about 45 minutes later. This plane's done. This bird's not flying. Everybody off. Great. Call the representative.
Did he call the bird, Josh? Did he say this bird's not flying?
He said the bird. He did. He said the bird. Which I always love when they go, hey, this bird's not flying. It's just so captain-y. It's good stuff. Success Leaves Clues, call planes birds. So we get off. And I immediately, get on the phone. I was able to get another flight a little bit later. Now it's going to get us in at about 1 a.m. It is what it is, right? I'll be able to get some sleep, and I'll get up in the morning, and at least I'll wake up in my bed. Perfect. And then I'll be able to take my son to basketball camp the next morning. We get on that plane. That plane gets delayed by a couple hours. So now we're like really pushing the limits. Am I going to have to sleep in Atlanta or not? We get on that plane, everybody boards, and within about 20 minutes of everybody boarding, the plane's not moving. I'm like, uh-oh. And sure enough, they come on. We've been working for 15 hours. We've timed out. Everybody's got to deplane. This flight is canceled.
Yeah.
This flight is canceled. Over 2. At that point, I did not stay neutral.
Yeah.
I got off the plane.
Which is great. I love this. You had.
And as I call the representative again to be like, yo, get me home. What are you going to do? As I'm on hold, I press mute and I lean back in my chair and I just go, F-bomb, about as loud as I can. And then I felt great after that, by the way. And but then, the next best step was, what am I going to do to get home? Let's look at other airlines, because this airline ain't getting it done. So let's look at other airlines. So sure enough, I found a red eye. We were able to get on that red eye. It left 5 hours later from at that point. And we got the red eye. We flew home. We knew whatever. I actually slept phenomenally on it for the 4.5 hours, maybe because all the stress I had from the day.
Yeah.
But the neutral story is, it was always like, after the initial emotion, because I did have emotion and you are going to have emotion. It was quickly, what can I do to make this better? What's the best next step? So boom, get on the phone. Okay, that's the plane. Okay, that's going to give me 45 minutes in between. I don't like 45 minutes. Give me an hour and 40. Okay, I'm going to take that flight. Boom. Okay, great. That one gets canceled. Okay, what's the next big step? How do we get home? Do I have to stay in San Francisco? Do I have to stay in Atlanta? Is there a direct flight? There's an overnight flight. Let me take that. How do I get on that flight? Et cetera, et cetera. And it was always just that I did have emotion, but the emotion didn't drive my decisions. Yeah. What drove my decisions is what was going to be the next best step for what we had to do, which was get my son to camp the next day. In addition to that, we had already made a couple calls to friends and family, and my older son, who is home right now and drives, about how to maybe get my son to camp. So we had everything planned, but it was just kind of what's the next step. But there was emotion, and I think that's the big key.
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
Is you're going to have that emotion. Yeah. It's not if you have it, is whether or not that emotion drives your next decision.
Right. And you didn't stop taking effective steps along the way while you were still processing the negative emotions. Yep. Right. It wasn't like, well, I can't take, an effective step until I process all of these. It's like, no, I can do them concurrently. I can still be upset and frustrated and angry and whatever, while I'm still going, I'm not going to be a jerk to this person, and I'm going to continue to look at the next flight and call the neighbor and all that stuff, while still also feeling and processing all those emotions.
Yeah, it was funny because I'm always just, I don't know why, but I'm always just genuinely nice to gate agents.
Yeah, that middle person, not their fault.
It's not their fault. And so my wife even at one point is like, "Man, you're so nice to the gate agents. Why do you do that?" And I'm just like, "They're just humans. They're just trying to do their job."
Yeah. So yeah. I love that. Well, hey, man, in the industry that we work in, and for anyone who's watching this and you do any level of traveling, right? I always love to say, like, you want to test neutral thinking, Josh? Travel. As soon as you step foot in that airport, everything is outside of your control. Everything. And your ability to be like, all right, it is what it is. Next right step. All right, next right step. So I love it, man. Awesome example.
So what I'm curious now though too, like what's your neutral story?
Yeah, mine's shorter, and it's literally from the standpoint of, like, hey, I'm 51. I still want to be active.
Looks 27.
Thank you, Josh. I appreciate it. I set that up beautifully. I still want to be as active as possible. I've been having issues the last few years, like with my calves, because I try to do enough running just to stay active, and I've had some calf issues, and so I'm buying better shoes. So literally today, I'm up in northern Michigan, and I'm like, I'm gonna go for a run, and I'm noticing, we walked the dog this morning first, and I'm noticing how sore, how tight, how old my legs feel, my body feels. And I'm just starting to kind of like go down this spiral of, man, I'm becoming old, and now it's this, and now it's this. And I'm starting to kind of believe all these things my body is telling me. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go for a run. I'm going to stretch. And instead of arguing with my body, instead of arguing with it and saying, I wish it were different, I wish it were this, I wish it were this, I'm just going to say, all right, hey, I'm tight. All right, I've been having issues with this. All right, I'm this. I'm just going to start running and do the best I can. and adjust. And if I get looser and I feel better, I'll go longer. And if I get to a point where I have to stop and stretch for a little bit, or like, I'm going to do that. But I'm just going to try to maintain this neutral mindset with, sure, maybe I wish things were different, but instead of arguing with reality, right? How can I collaborate with my body? How can I collaborate?
I love that. Hold on. Pause. Arguing with reality versus collaborating with reality. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Sorry, just wanted to call that out.
No. And I think this is what I love about neutral thinking. The most important thing about neutral thinking is that you keep responding and going.
Yep.
Right? What's my new current situation? Is it what I want it to be? Doesn't matter. What am I going to do now? And can I still keep moving and making progress? I didn't set any records today on my run, but I ran. And tomorrow I'll get up. My body's going to feel one way or another. Maybe it's better, maybe it's worse, but I'm still going to do the best I can with whatever is showing up. And so instead of beating ourselves up and going, I wish I were 10 years younger, or I wish I had taken better care of my body at this time. Like, no, this is what it is. What can I do with it today? Get neutral and take that next right step.
Yeah. Love that. I love that. And it's funny too, because you said you didn't set any records, but you did. You set the record for the most miles run by Travis Thomas on
today,
July 15th.
PR, baby.
2025. I said 1995, 2025. That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. You set that record today, bro.
What a great segue, Josh, because as we queue up our guest who's joining us today,
I think we should do a segment called Horrible Transitions. It's just be like, okay, so that's done. Now here's this.
I love it. Well, you said 1995, and so I graduated from college in 1995. Yes, you did. You see, there improvisation, Josh. There are no mistakes. You meant to say 2025. You said 1995. I graduated in college in 1995. Our guest today also graduated from Lehigh University in 1995, and so I'm really excited to have him on. He and I, we met when we were 13, 14 years old playing club soccer in Michigan. He was the new kid that moved to town. We became friends. We've been lifelong friends since that time, although we've never lived in the same area since. We might go years without seeing one another, and whenever we connect, it's like we haven't missed a beat. And so, Josh, you and I were together down in Fort Lauderdale a few weeks ago, meeting and doing some work with one of our amazing clients. My friend DJ was in town because he lives there, and we got together. And as you and I were talking about this podcast, I said, this is a guy we need to get on the pod. And so just to introduce you all to DJ as we bring him on live. The funny thing about this is I sent him a message yesterday. His name is DJ Viola. Viola. It's spelled Viola. But Josh, you're a baseball guy. Who do you think of when you see
Viola?
Viola. So I realized in getting DJ's bio, I was like, DJ, I've got to come clean. I've known you for almost 40 years. Is your last name Viola or Viola? And he's like, V. It's like that guy. He goes, Frank totally screwed up my childhood, because everyone knows it as Viola.
Viola. There you go.
My good friend DJ Viola, when he graduated from Lehigh, he went to New York City to become an ad buyer for General Motors, was successful with that. But after a few years, realized that wasn't the life he wanted to live. He packed up his Jeep, Josh, and he didn't move to Beverly, but he was close. He packed up his Jeep and he moved to Los Angeles, to Hollywood, to fulfill a dream of working in Hollywood, to be a filmmaker, to do the passion that he always wanted to do. And in that time, over 25 years of being in Hollywood as a director, as a producer, as a collaborator, he's worked in film, he's worked in TV, he's worked in commercial. He has won numerous awards. He's won the iParenting Award. He's won the Epiphany Award. He's been to Tribeca, has been recognized at the Tribeca Film Festival. His work has been on ABC, MTV, PBS, AE, Lifetime, Hallmark Channel, and he has toured the world as the lead documentarian for Eminem, most recently for Kiss, as they have their documentary of their very last tour is coming out. He's behind that, and he's got constant, exciting projects that he is always working on. And so he's worked in this expansive industry. He's done so many different things. And in a world, Josh, just like the world of professional sports, the world of the arts, of that thing, it is so hard to stay in it and not get spit out. and to be able to keep adapting and maintain such a level of success for such a long period of time. I'm excited to open up his brain and see what clues of success he is ready to leave for us. So without further ado, let's welcome to the Limitless Minds Success Leaves Clues podcast, DJ Viola. DJ Viola, welcome to the Limitless Minds podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So Josh, one of the things I wanted to start off with, you know that you have a good guest when I read that bio of DJ's accomplishments of his career. But when I talk to him, he says, I don't know why you all want to talk to me. I don't think I have anything interesting to say. So that's usually a good starting point.
Always a good start. Yeah, I'm pretty boring. I got nothing, guys.
Can I just ask you guys questions? It'd be way better for me.
Yeah, we can do that too. That's no problem. But I think one of the other things that we could do is, we're doing improv, and Travis does this game of one word answers. And so, if you really get, if you don't feel like you have anything, just do the one word answer and make us super awkward. It'll be
just awesome. Let you vamp.
The listeners will love that.
We covered 295 questions in 30 minutes because with one word answer.
Well, I have an opening question for you. Can you name Lehigh University's nickname? What is their mascot? Do you know the mascot of Lehigh University?
It was the Engineers, and then it had to turn into the Mountain Hawks when they wanted to be a little more marketable.
Ooh.
But no one's really embraced that.
The Mountain Hawks.
They added gold to really add some flair to their brand.
Gold?
Yes. I think they should. You know what? Maybe let's all collectively just see if we can get hired to help Lehigh market a little better, because no one knows the Mountain Hawks, and they still make the sweet 65 in the basketball.
Yeah, they're always
they're
like right there.
They almost get televised.
Yeah.
Marist College,
a popular first round upset. 12-5 action there. Yeah.
King Francis of Pennsylvania.
Almost known. They're really known for wrestling, which means they're not known.
Yeah.
I think they're really known because everybody thinks they're Lafayette. That's the other thing too.
Easy. Shots fired.
All right, DJ, first real question. Mr. What is it? Rocket Hawk? What was it? Engineering? Was it Mountain
Hawks?
Mountain Hawk. I like
Rocket.
I like Rocket Hawk.
By the way, I hope I'm right about that. I haven't paid attention to it in 20 years since I left, but I think I'm pretty right.
All right, DJ.
At this point.
DJ, what are you working on right now professionally that you're excited about?
I am wrapping up a Kiss docuseries. I was on tour with them for the last 50 shows of their career. So we did 50 shows after 50 years of rock and roll, which was pretty amazing. It was 2.5 weeks in South America, 8 weeks in Europe, 2 weeks in Australia, and then 6 weeks in North America, all to end at Madison Square Garden for 2 nights in December. So it was an honor to be with just something of that magnitude and that legacy, and to be a part of just capturing that final push for those guys and watch them. 50 doesn't seem like many, but when you're in 35 out, it's a rinse and repeat each day. And you can see the guys were just on their sort of autopilot. This is what we do. And it very authentically turned into real moments for them as they got into that 10, 9, 8. Yeah. Paul ends up getting, no spoilers, this is news, but Paul actually got sick and wasn't sure he was going to make it. This thing got really dramatic at the end. So that was pretty wild being on the road with someone who, was basically formed when I was a baby. And yet suddenly I get to be there for the end and on stage to this amazing moment. So that was a cool one. And then I don't know if Trav, in our recent dinners, if I shared with you the Bob Joyce documentary.
I didn't know if it was okay to share that. So
the internet knows about him. I just the movies probably won't be done until the end of the year. But we're tracking down Elvis, and he's doing great. he's preaching in Arkansas right now. And
Josh,
for those of you who don't know, like me, tell us about who Bob Joyce is.
Blow your socks off.
I'm ready.
Very quick.
I'm wearing flip-flops. That's awesome.
Very quick. There is a pastor in Benton, Arkansas, to about 100-person church. That is the same height, shoe size, same vein pattern, same scars on his hand and on his eye, same dental work, and same singing voice as Elvis Presley. And so there is an entire congregation of people at that church, let alone a fair number of people across the globe and the internet, who believe that Elvis faked his death and is now living out his true purpose in life, which is sounded as ridiculous as possible. And when I was first pitched the idea, and a year later of spending time with these people, we've sort of discovered that it's a beautiful journey of what you want versus what you need. So whatever reason people showed up there and whatever they think they found something so far richer that I think it ends up being a pretty impactful story when we're done with it. So that one's pretty exciting because it's a conspiracy theory wrapped up in a story of hope. Like it's kind of a twister of a journey that we're on with that one. So.
So DJ, when you take on a project like that, especially with a documentary where you're having to fully immerse yourself into a community or into a topic or into a subject, obviously like with Kiss or with Eminem, you're just like, you're on the tour, you're fully integrated into them for that long period of time. But when you're working on something like this, what's that look like from like a management standpoint? Because you've got a team of people, so you're managing a team of people, you're managing the project, but then you're also managing the relationships at the same time. So sort of what have you, it's a big question, I know, but what have you kind of learned, or what have you sort of realized is so important from your role that is key to overseeing that kind of project?
It's vast, but a really good question. It's, you have to wear obviously a lot of hats. And when you're in there, especially in things like whether it was Kiss or Bob or Eminem, I'm not allowed the luxury of a crew. Like it's such a small, close-knit team that I'm getting access to that I'm oftentimes a one-man band out there. So I've got these technical aspects of having to just make sure the camera's in focus, make sure it's charged, that I have media, that it's in focus, that I'm on the right lens, that I'm following everything to its to a degree that an editor would have enough footage to make a story out of it. So if I just capture a fun moment, that fun moment has no life beyond that moment, unless I can figure out how to establish where we were, what's the setup of that moment, what happened there, and what's the payoff. So you have to sort of be thinking in the edit the entire time, while also you're just producing the talent and directing the talent in a natural way to keep them comfortable that they don't care any longer that you're filming all this. And so that has, I did I traveled with a Christian outlaw motorcycle club for years, and I don't even ride bikes, but they ran halfway houses for two strikers in Orange County, California. And so they were doing this amazing work, but I'm often interviewing these ex-cons, or I don't want to get too specific on some of their titles, but some of the guys in the Vagos and the Hells Angels that have, more harder jobs, shall I say. And I'm having to keep conversation going with them because they're giving me these rich stories and they're telling me something that's really personal. And so I think it's important that you stay in good graces with these guys. You aren't not being who you are, but you're being open enough to let them be who they are authentically. Because as soon as they're overthinking what they're going to say, the camera knows it. It's just not interesting. Yeah. And as soon as someone's speaking from the heart, you can't get enough of it. And so you really have to kind of just sit within their environment, be comfortable there, not be obtrusive, but also know when to sort of poke when you just need a little bit more commentary. So yeah, it feels, no matter what the job, sort of what I would consider like a war correspondent, you're literally just in an environment you have no control of. And yet you have to come out of there with all of the goods to be able to tell that story, or it was pointless to have you there. So
how do you learn to do that, or how did you learn to do that? I'm sure there was some mistakes made along the way, but what have you kind of figured out and you're having to do it fairly quickly, right? Being able to create that level of authentic comfort with somebody, gaining their trust in such a short amount of time. So how do you consciously do that?
Well, I think that twofold. From a technical aspect, sitting in an edit with your own footage teaches you everything. Because I have a friend of mine, when he directed his first film, he's like, it wasn't until the edit that I realized during the birthday song, we never got a cutaway of the birthday cake. He's like, I'm just cutting from faces to faces to faces, and the story isn't there. And that's the truth. Like when you're sitting in the edit, you're like, I don't have a safety net. I don't have the hands. I'm always on the guy. I don't have the reverse of the person listening. So you have to just know your footage well enough to shoot like an editor when you're out there.
Can I ask you a question? It almost sounds like film review for athletes, where they review plays on right, and they're going, oh, okay, I need to do this, I need to do that. That'll make it better. Is that kind of how you view it?
Yeah, and I think, in studios notoriously have always held back enough budget so you could go back and do reshoots. You can go pick up things that weren't working. Right. I often don't have that luxury. And so I may have another kick at the can if I'm going down to, Benton, Arkansas, or if I'm going to see Gene again, I might pick up something there. But for the most part, you have to be out there and make sure you're getting something that feels fully editable. Also to a way that you can tonally push and pull that footage. So it's not just getting a shot of that person. It's making sure you're getting a shot of that person listening is maybe more power than the person talking. And you're on it long enough to get enough reactions out of them that you can then make that moment what it needs to be in the edit, not to be inauthentic, but actually more authentic to what you were feeling at that time, And so a lot of it is just thinking like an editor. As far, what was the second half?
It's almost like transforming your mind of, okay, I'm going to fast forward in the future because I know what's going to come and I know what I'm going to need to make this scene alive and to really draw the audience in. And that's kind of what it sounds like to me.
What's tough with docs is you have to do that for every moment that you think might have value. I mean, Kiss, I shot 400 hours of content. It's not a 400-hour documentary, So you're constantly you're finishing everything that oftentimes doesn't get used at all. In scripted, you can do it a little bit, with more precision, because you're like, all right, well, we're running out of time. I know I can get this scene done in 5 angles. I know I just need to, let's actually block our 2 actors to walk together for this moment so we can get, finish on a oneer and we can get out of there. So it's the docs that you have to be much scrappier, where, half the time they're like, why are you over there shooting the bookshelf? And you're like, oh, you mentioned a book, so I had to run over here and show what you were talking about, or to go get photos of people's, in people's houses. It's what you have to think, like, when I'm in the room, what am I looking at? We don't have a zoom lens on our eyes, but you do. What you focus on is what you want to look at, including on, if you're looking at something, if you're looking at a room, or if you're looking at a guitar in a room, those are 2 different shots, So you try to think like, all right, if I were to tell this story, where would I be looking? That's a big one when you shoot concerts too, is if I was sitting in the 5th row center, or maybe if, up by the soundboard, like, who am I paying attention to? Who's doing something dynamic, or who am I just intrigued by, because I haven't checked in on them lately. So a lot of it is just putting yourself in the seat of the eventual audience member, even past the editor, of what are they going to want to know? What do you feel like you've held back? Horror movies always hold back your peripheral. So you're always worried about what's around that corner, So it's that level of manipulation you have to do, but on the fly. So
I always get, I can't watch horror movies. I don't sleep at night afterwards. Quick question. You mentioned this phrase, putting yourself out there. And I love that. It's like we're so often in our own minds and so often thinking about what's going to be good or bad or how I'm going to be perceived. Your job is to find stuff that's going to be perceived in a certain manner. But in order to allow the participants of that particular documentary or whatever you're filming, that art form, it seems like you have to be out there in a way that they feel so comfortable with you and that you're really, really, really present. How do you do that? Like, what do you do mentally to gear yourself up for that day, to be that present, to have that awareness, DJ, to have that awareness to go, oh, we just talked about a book, let me scan over to the bookshelf?
I think I tend to look for things in people that I like in people. And so I tend to look for something less about what they're doing or when they're doing it, but why and how. And I look for the good reasons in those. And so I think when I'm always looking for the whys and hows, and I'm not asking someone, hey, what are you doing right now? I ask, why are you doing this? And oftentimes in that sort of natural conversation, something far, more introspective comes out from them, within that, they obviously have to have a fair amount of trust that I'm not here to get them. I'm actually here to help shed insight that they wouldn't know how to do. The way you guys are going to, are asking me questions of things I've never thought about. I just, unconsciously do. It's the same thing with them. It's like getting people to sort of activate on a comfortable level is not manipulation. It's, I think they have a trust that I'm a decent enough person. I like them as a person. I let them know I like them as a person. And I think when the camera's dipped, when it's off, I spend a lot of time talking about things that we have mutual interest in, whether it's about our kids or whether it's about travel or whether it's just about, we happen to, something funny we all saw collectively, yesterday. It's to let them know that this is always just a casual conversation. Don't be on because the lens is here. As a matter of fact, I'm going to cut all of that until you just forget. And so I also get, I also try to just keep the camera somewhat ubiquitous. Like I'm always kind of having it. So then they realize like, well, I can't worry about this guy all the time. So I might as well just give up. And so I think, in some of these guys, like with Eminem, I was with him for, 6 years. Kiss now, this is my third project with these guys. I think that also builds up this trust of, all right, I like the version of us that I put out. And so they like how they come off because it's authentic, but it's also a little deeper than what they would have done in a casual interview. So I think that it's just a constant conversation. The tiredness comes from, you said, how do you get up in the morning? The tough part is we may finish shooting for the day or doing whatever we're doing. And everyone's like, hey, do you want to go to dinner now? Everyone and their brother would love an opportunity to go to dinner with Gene Simmons, unless you just filmed him for 13 hours.
Right.
And you're like, I kind of just want to sit and stare at a wall, offload some footage and do nothing. But, it's a lot of those are super important too, because it's connecting, and then having even shorthand with people. Like there's a way in which when you're with them enough and when they're tired, back off. But when they don't feel like doing it, sometimes you got to poke and be like, I'm here to do my job too. And they'll be like, all right. So you also have to be able to, tease each other too,
It's interesting too, because you would think that maybe in that exhaustion, there's going to be some rawness as well when they're tired and they don't feel like doing it. That authenticity piece, maybe.
They certainly show frustration with me trying to, like, I choose my battles, when is there a moment I just have to get in there and I know it, like when they're applying makeup or taking off makeup in Kiss, that is a sacred place that no cameras are allowed until I kick down the door and go, I'm in here because this is important to the fans. And they'll give in once, maybe twice. They're not going to do it for 50 shows, So then you have to know that, like, all right, I overstepped and everyone knew why. Now let me give you your space. So, it's a relationship. You have to be in a relationship with these people, especially when you're telling a real story about them. They're not actors. This is their lives. And that's the craziest part about it. And the most responsibility. Like I could really like this person and still mistell the story.
Yeah.
And make them look terrible. So you have to be a craftsman all the way through. When I leave and head into post and talk to the editor, I have to give the editor the full context of what we went through in that moment. So they know not to make, if the stage manager is a bad guy, this is sexier TV. But no, he's a good guy. So why don't we find another problem? Let me tell you 6 other problems that happened that day to make that the thing. So I'm really cautious about telling dynamic stories without warts and all is so key, as long as you're telling that upswing of how they overcome those inabilities. And I think that's the power of storytelling. That's the strength of storytelling. If otherwise no one wants to watch. There's a sine curve of storytelling. And a straight one is boring as it gets, So you have to let people get comfortable with the fact that you want to follow some of Paul getting sick or Gene getting sick or people, pyro not being right. All those things matter because I know the movie's going to end up here.
Yeah.
And so, and the audience wants it to, you have to make me root for you. If everything you say is right and everything you do is right, who cares?
I love that. You have to make me want to root for you. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So in your work, DJ, I mean, there's the technical expertise that comes with being a director, being, working and knowing how knowing how to tell a story, knowing the technical aspect of it, but most of your work is the relational, it's the human, it's how do you not only work with the subject matter, but work with everybody and to get everyone on the same page so that you can tell that story. Yet I don't imagine that there was a ton of formal training for you over the years in how you develop those skills. Was there someone that you worked for? Was there an experience that you had where there was a turning point or a shift where you kind of really saw how important that human connection aspect is to doing this kind of work?
100%. Anything I ever do on set or in post with my team is based on experience I had on the sports field. Soccer was the greatest training ever because every job I'm on is a team sport. I don't play guitar. I don't just paint, like I have to have a team, and therefore I have to have that team all, rowing in the same direction. I have to have everyone believing that this impossible thing is attainable by all of us working together. Most of my job is communicating to that team what the goal is, and then giving them the space to provide their role at the best that they can in the way that they want to help tell that. So when you work with a production designer and a DP, I'm not saying I want a green couch and I want a 35 millimeter lens. I want this tone. All I am there to do is protect tone, and then they take their particular discipline and do their best to do that. And I think that's the greatest part about this job is the team sport. I try to be the most prepared person possible on set every single morning. So then I don't need to worry about the fail safe. The backstop is my idea wins. If no one comes up with a better idea, then we'll go with mine. But I challenge everyone there. Like I already got it. Like I already got a plan, but if you can beat this idea, we're going with yours. And like, that's the joy of it. And that's when you sit back and go, I can't take credit for this. We take credit for this. I love film. Obviously, everyone jokes like, I don't watch my own movies. Well, it's because you've seen it 100 times in the post. So there's no reason to watch the finished project. But I also think it's obnoxious to ever come out and pretend to be an auteur, a single man job. It takes away really the beauty of the art form and the people who have worked so hard to become great at their particular lane there. And I also found that in sports teams, people love a leader, whether that person's right or wrong. Ideally, you hope that person's agile enough that 80% of the time they're right, and the 20% of the time they realize it quickly enough, And so I find that most of the time when I'm inspiring people on something that I'm passionate about, that's infectious. If we're there on a job to just pay rent, we call them making sausage jobs, well, then we have to make it fun, because we all took this one as maybe a gap to get somewhere else. And undoubtedly, those are the jobs that end up exploding into something much richer. So we're never quite right about the jobs we choose sometimes, but those jobs are like, okay, let's go out and let's work on our skill set here. I used to do like airport food videos, which imagine a more challenging subject than that.
I loved your work back then.
Yeah, right. It's should be awards for that.
There's nothing like a Caesar salad with chicken in a plastic box. You have filmed that perfectly over and over and over.
I've made that. I've backlit that thing and shown the steam as the plastic just peels back.
But I can just hear it right now opening.
Oh yeah. Just in that fork that bends and you wonder like, was this washed? So that's the fun part about airport travel, and I've brought that to life. But nonetheless, in those jobs, we would work on tabletop food photography. We'd work on animation. We'd work on green screen and interesting 3D fly-throughs. And then suddenly we'd end up on another gig and we'd be like, we've done this before. It just isn't for an action hero. It was to try to sell some Salisbury steaks. And so I think all of those, every job is an opportunity to learn from. I I actually get really nervous when I watch a movie that isn't working and I can't figure out why. You know, so a lot of that is like, okay, hold on. Like, I like the choices this filmmaker made. What is missing here?
Right.
You know, it's such a combination of so many of those parts. And so that's why I think every one of those other jobs, it's like, all right, well, what's the thing we wanted to try? Let's get that weird camera rig out here and just convince the client this is a good idea for their product, and we'll make sure it is, you know, but get out there and just try this stuff. So you just have another tool in your bag for the next time you end up in these, you know, these new projects.
I mean, it's Travis, correct me if I'm wrong, but it just sounds like it's just completely rooted in the growth mindset of
the journey.
Here's an opportunity to grow, to get better. And everything that you're facing isn't challenge, it's opportunity. And if it is a challenge, it's an opportunity. I mean, that's just kind of what's coming.
You're going to learn something from every job, whether it's, you know, whether it's glamorous or not. Right. And I imagine DJ, in your line of work, it's like, you know, you never know who you're going to meet on that set or what that next job is going to turn into, but your job is, and your focus isn't on that. Your focus is on the job that you're actually doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think you also want to try to keep your team busy, you know? So if there's maybe if you're in post and your production team is down for a bit, you may want to just throw out some jobs out there, take some stuff on, just so you guys keep sharp. You know, it's not riding a bicycle. You definitely can. It can be a little confusing when you step on set when you haven't been out there for a little while. So it's fun to get out there and just play. And amazing how you still find such great pride in delivering exactly what that constraint was. You know, creativity really blossoms in these weird constraints. So whether it's a topic maybe wasn't the sexiest of topics to take on, or the budget was impossibly hard, those things end up really, you know, team strengthening, but also just like it just works that creative muscle to where you come out of there with such pride. And I'll be like, you know, making my wife have to sit through like a laptop commercial she doesn't care about. I'm like, you don't understand how impossible this shot was to get before the sunset. She's like,
yeah,
okay. But we all high-fived and hugged when we got it, you know, and so did the client. So, you know, you gotta set those little goals and hit them.
It sounds like that kind of stuff like helps you get into that play mindset. Like you're playing. I mean, that you just use that word and you've talked about it already, like getting out there. And that's like, it just seems like as we're talking and I'm getting to know you, DJ, it just seems like you love what you do. Like you have a true passion. And I say passion from the place of like, here I go, I'm filming a salad. Let's figure this out. It's gonna be, and so it doesn't matter the subject. The subject can certainly help that motivation and that excitement, but that excitement seems like it's intrinsic. It just comes from what you're doing. You love the art form.
I love the team sport. You know, I love being around a bunch of other not like-minded, I would say different-minded people who all come together and have their role in that place. And so that's the juice for me. That is the puzzle. I like puzzling these, you know, these complicated messages down to, you know, particular shots, but I also like to have everybody take their part in it. And I think that's a thrill. Every single time I think I'm beat down from a job that, you know, that I just got off the road from, and I get a call on Monday and unbelievably, I'm like, yep, here we go. You know, like I love jumping into the middle of the ring of fire and just sort of, you know, like a sprinkler, just turning to my right and answering as many questions as I can. And by the time I come around, the fire is ablaze again. But to me, it's just, that is life, you know, and that life has been fun because it's taken me, you know, I've gotten to travel the world just doing these such a myriad of different jobs. And although docs, I think, tend to be a harder lift mining for story, they are an interesting opportunity to completely get immersed into a world that you weren't previously a part of. You know, so whether it's bikers or rock stars or luxury in St. Bart's, you're out, you know, I did a luxury shoot of mansions out there one time, and for a real estate company that everyone signed on to do that one. That was not a sausage making job. But you know, when you get immersed into those jobs, you come out of that just richer, you know, it's like, wow, like I feel worldly. I feel like I'm living And by the way, I had a goal to get out there and accomplish it. Like I had this job. I was shooting. I had an opportunity to work with the Ringo Starr, and Ringo lives in Monaco for 6 months out of the year. And it was this thing for PBS we were shooting, and it was all green screen. So it's ridiculous that we're going to Monaco to shoot green screen, and it was an all French speaking crew. We were trying to produce this thing from afar, and I'm flying in, and I saw all these houses out the left side of the plane, these, gorgeous estates. And I thought, wow, like, how those people, like, how was that their life? And here I am stressed about what I'm going to do and deal with a Beatle. And like, we're going to pull this off. And I was so jealous of them and felt so riddled with the pressure that I was under going into this gig. The shoot went quite well. Ringo was a delight. I mean, he's so fun. He literally starts stories in the middle, assuming everything. Like it's just it was really fun. He tells you, and he tells you crazy things like there's iconic sounds of the Beatles that are based on that I'm a left-handed drummer or the right-handed kit. Bum bum ba dum ba dum. He's like, that's how I get around. So you get immersed in this cool stuff. Anyway, 3 days later, I'm flying out of Monaco. And I'm on the other side of the plane, so I had the exact same view. And I felt this unbelievable sadness. I wouldn't say unbelievable. I felt unbelievable to me. I don't feel overly sad for these people, but I felt sad for them that they were with the same people, eating the same meals, on those same porches, having accomplished nothing in those 3 days, where I went on this crazy roller coaster of fear and concern and pressure, only to win and then be leaving like, wait, that's life. Like that is truly what gets me up in the morning, is to be like, whoa, I'm going to bed having accomplished something. And it was the good news is I don't have a goal now of buying that house in Monaco. So maybe my goals slipped down a little to my wife's pain, but to me, it's
just sell the guitar, man. You'll be golden. Just sell the guitar.
All right.
Well, the funny, DJ, the funny thing is that, I mean, going back to you and I, high school age, you were talking about the career that you wanted to have. You wanted to be in Hollywood. You wanted to be working in TV and film and doing this. I don't know if you were envisioning Eminem and Kiss and Ringo and airport Caesar salads, but you had an idea early on that this is the work that you want to do. And then what I love about, again, I think it's amazing, whether you think it's amazing or not. I love that once, you graduate from college and you move to New York City and you have a nice, start off job in New York City that you probably could have continued to advance in and been comfortable and had a really successful life. But you decided to leave. And you decided to take the leap, if you will, right? So like, Josh and I work in an industry where the success rate of people that stay in this industry is minute. And you decided to take a leap into an industry, which is probably statistically roughly the same. The people that last and the people that don't make it. And so for you, what was the motivation for that decision? And then I know, just like the professional sports world, very little part of the journey is ever easy. What is it about you that has allowed you to stay in it and to live with the uncertainty and the discomfort and just all those aspects that most people don't sign up for?
Well, definitely it's based on something that's wrong with me. Like I tell my kids all the time, like, don't follow your dreams. Those are for hobbies. Like, get a 9-to-5 and get paid on Friday. Like, trust me, it looks way better than what I do. But yeah, no, I had, as you mentioned earlier, I went to Lehigh in business school, even though in high school, I knew I wanted to be a filmmaker. I didn't do book reports. I made short films, but I used them on like my dad's VHS camera that I used to film Trav and I playing soccer or whatever it was on. So it was hard to do. And it was also pre-internet. So there's no way to really know what a film school is. So I was like, all right, well, I'll go get an education at a fun school. And there the guidance counselor said, if you want to get into film, get into commercials, which leads to TV, which leads to film, which turns out is not true at all. That's not at all how that industry works. So I was a media buyer in New York, and it was fun because we got to eat dinner at Madison Square Garden every night. I think I was making, 16 grand a year, but we had good perks and it was fun. And the day they promoted me was the day that I gave them my 2 weeks. And I was like, no, I don't want this. I'm going to be a filmmaker. So I literally drove to LA. I knocked on the beta house at UCLA and said, can I sleep here? And they're like, okay. And I took an intern. One of the guys there at the house within like a week had given up an internship at Fox. And I went and started reading scripts to executives. I would literally like read a script and then pitch it. And they'd be like, that's too many details. It's too many details. So all day long, I was reading 5 scripts a day and pitching them to executives until I realized how to pitch. And I realized how to like break down the script. And then they got me I got a receptionist job at some place, which my dad was still tragically disappointed in my career at that point, after paying for college. And then I became a story editor. So for 3.5 years, I'm working with writers as a story editor, getting to know a lot about scripts, but I still wasn't directing. The whole goal was directing. So I quit that job, which was a nice office job, and I moved onto a boat in Mexico, and I literally just filmed and edited. I learned how to shoot and edit while I was down there, came back up and said, I will not take another job unless it's a directing job. And I started making reels for Ultimate Fighters who wanted to be action stars. So I was working with like Mark Kerr and Coleman and Rico and Tito and those guys. And that's how I had a lowly job on a set of Eminem one day when they weren't going to make the day. They were having trouble in the production, and I helped them replace the crew. And from then on out, they took me on tour. So it was just, so, and in each one of those, like I was in rock and roll for a while. I did the screen content for him and things were going well, but I didn't want to be locked into the rock and roll world. So then I walked away from that to get into commercials. And then commercials still weren't long form stories. So I walked away from that to get into TV and film. So to me, it's kind of always making sure that your short-term goal is giving that little job is everything you've got. And if you don't have that tenacity, you will not make it. In our industry, probably most industries, in my opinion, at least you won't find success in it if you just aren't giving it 110. My dad always loved some Sylvester Stallone quote to figure out what you like to do in this world and do it 10% harder than everybody else. It's not really true in Hollywood. Oftentimes, if you're just related to someone, it's a whole lot easier. but honestly, like I've always taken that, like I'm giving every job 110%, but I keep my eye on the long term of I want to go tell stories, and wherever that story is, then I'm seeking out that goal. And so then having now done sort of all different forms of media, it's actually a nice place to be able to A, say no at times now. But B, take on subjects that I think, that's either challenging or that's really a story that I don't think is very well understood, and I'd like to take my crack at it, or it just might be fun, or it allows me to stay home more with my kids, any one of those. But it doesn't mean that I'm not giving it all of my effort on that. So yeah, I think it's keeping that long-term goal, but making sure your short-term goals are always met. You cannot abandon the job. You have to finish it completely, and know that somehow, even though your path was this way, as I'm zigzagging to anyone who's listening, is actually the direct path. You just didn't know.
That's where you do all the learning, right?
And to look back and go, wow, it's because of that, and that. When I drove to LA, I'm sure I was convinced I was going to I wanted to either make a Batman movie or a Muppet movie. Those were my 2 goals.
Still time, brother. Still time.
Yeah, that's right. Now, if I can make a Batman Muppet movie, I can just knock it out at once.
There it is. They did the Lego. They did a Muppet. It's good.
Hey, I was going to say, Josh, you got time for one more, and then I got one more, and we'll
okay. Yeah. We'll so here's my your journey is ridiculous, and I love this. Like, I just have this picture in my brain of like, like, have you ever seen like those base jumpers where they take the picture just as they've left the cliff? That seems like your life. It's just you just jumping off a cliff over and over again. Just be like, hey, parachute's gonna work. It's fine. But the question I have is you have had access to some incredibly successful people, namely, Kiss and Eminem jump off the page. What have you seen from them that has allowed them to be? I mean, these are 0.001% of all musicians. What have you seen from them that has allowed them to be truly successful?
No plan B. Every one of them has no other plan.
Sounds like DJ.
It is. It is. I'm gonna make it. And so whether they may move that goal of what making it is, I think that's fair. That's called aging, but it is never. It is. They never take their eye off the ball that way. They never go, oh well, if not, I could just go be an accountant. Like it's not in them. When I was I was doing a lot of work with the WWE for a little bit, and I think it's fascinating with actually most of these subjects. What makes them special often is a reason that could lead to their downfall also. It's if you don't readjust that goal, you continue on that voracious path that made you better at what you did versus your competition. But if you aren't growing, if you're too addicted to that hunger, or you're too, unable to assess that you've reached that goal, and you can start to, level that off a little bit, then oftentimes what makes you special can lead to your downfall too. And you see some of these guys, not figure out what they want to do next. And that can be dangerous. Now, some of these roles they can do forever. So some of these people are safe, but I do think when you get into some of the more, physical stuff, like when I was looking at the wrestlers, it was like,
can't do that forever.
Yeah, your plan, you can stay out of plan A. I just think your plan A needs to continue to change, but it was always that it's so inspirational to be around those people who they can't not do it, real quick. I know we're running out of time, but I've never really been into food service. I don't really understand why people cook. And I was filming in this high-end restaurant down in the Gaslight district in San Diego. And I was looking at, it was like 1 a.m, and I was looking at all these people who were dressed in black and tatted up, and they're all yelling at each other in the kitchen. So, and I'm looking at all these people like, it's hot, like everyone's mean. Like, why would you be doing this? And as I'm panning the room, I end up to the right side of the room, and there's my crew who looks exactly like these people who are at 1 a.m in a hot kitchen doing their job. And I was like, oh, if you have to do it, like if you have to in your heart do it, there's no stopping you from doing it. And so I was like, oh, I now get it. These people have to cook. That is their love, Then you shouldn't be in a difficult industry if it's not a have to. If it's an interest, you're never going to make it. People are going to outpace you,
Mm-hmm. I love that. Josh, can you relate to that one at all?
A little bit. A little bit. Just a little bit. Yeah. Yes, sir.
My last question, DJ, is, and I think that we could have a much longer interview. We haven't even had time to talk about how you've been balancing this kind of career with a family and with young kids, and how much a priority they are in your life as well. And so there's so much that goes into that as well. But when you think about the depth and breadth of your successful career, what is one story that you haven't had a chance to work on, but you're still motivated to work on?
There's a very big script I wrote years ago that won't seem to leave my plate. There's one that as AI filmmaking tools, which truly they are tools, they're going to be huge assets in our industry. Everyone should stop thinking they're industry killing. They're not. They're just a new tool set. As those things start to come and develop, I think I'm going to have a chance to actually make this thing, because I wrote basically $100 million movie that is a very hard lift. And every year it's coming down and down and down. And there's a world in which I may honestly just be doing that from the comfort of this office one day and just typing in those things. So I think the idea of being able to story tell on some of these things that have always kind of, hung there that I want to go out and capture is only becoming easier and easier versus when I was doing it with VHS tapes in high school, So, I like, there's one really big project that I think is, I remember when I was writing it, I was afraid someone might come up with the same concept and make it. Well, it's 10 years now. Apparently it wasn't, to me, it's still brilliant. So, I'll share it with you, Trav. I think it's, in fact, I'll send it to you and you can tell me if maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree. But that one in particular, I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Follow-up question: how can Josh and I be in it?
Yeah.
There you go.
I'll be an extra. I don't care, man. I'll just like fall out of a tree.
It actually takes place in St. Louis.
All right, I'm in it. Yeah,
I'm out there.
You can show me around.
I'm completely out.
You got family there. I would love.
Or I'm going to make it here in Florida, and and I won't have to go there.
I will be there as well. You know that, and Josh is already there, so easy. It's getting easier
right.
for us.
That's so funny.
DJ, hey, thanks so much, brother. And what if you can just stay with us for a second? What we'd love to do is I would love to hear from Josh. And what again, this is Success Leaves Clues. And so even though DJ, we're not always conscious of our own competence. That's what Josh and I know is that. And working with high performers, there's conscious competence and unconscious competence. And there's a whole lot of unconscious competence in what you've been sharing with us. And Success Leaves Clues is, being able to share back what I saw, what I noticed, which
pull out the key points for people,
clues. So Josh, I have a couple quick ones, but what pops off to you first as far as DJ's Success Leaving Clues?
Yeah, number one is you never know, right? So fire then aim, right? And so what DJ has done with his life is just, this is the pursuit I'm going to go for. I'm going for it, and I'm not going to have a plan B. I'm rolling out, and we're going to make it happen, hell or high water. I'm committed to it. I have faith, and you never know. So the you never know comes out with, here I am, I'm filming something that what you call the sausage job, but in that there's things that I can learn. There's ways that I can grow that I don't know what that's going to mean down the road, but I do know it's going to mean something, and I'll figure that out later. But right now I'm going to be so committed to my art, to my career, to my life, to my passion, that I'm not going to know until I know later on the road, but I'm going to have faith that that's going to occur. So that's what jumped out at me. And then number two, play, man. Play. Get out there. You do not serve the world by reserving yourself. You do not serve the world by holding back and playing it safe. Get out there and go. Yeah, those are two things that jumped out at me.
Awesome. Nice. Awesome. The three quick ones I have is, you said it, DJ, is we control what we focus on, right? Josh and I teach that in our world all the time, right? We actually we don't control our thoughts, but we do control what we're going to focus on, and whether we're going to focus on those thoughts or not, and how powerful that is. I love you saying that when you're working with people, the reason you're able to work so well with people is that you basically, you see them as good people. You almost have a bias for good. And if you go through life with a bias for good, I absolutely believe that those people feel that from you and just want to open up to someone who has that genuine sort of authentic warmth to them. And then you talked about how to, bringing together great teams and finding that what is the shared common goal, that shared vision, getting everybody on that same page. And once, if you can, and what I heard in that too, is a lot of times you're empowering people to bring their expertise to the table, not just listen to your 100%. Expertise. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. And just how collective that is. So, I mean, I've got a whole list of things, but as far as clues to that success, those are the three that popped off to me.
Right on. I had no idea I was saying anything.
Love it.
Getting you to conscious competence. I like it.
I like it, DJ.
Is there anything that, before we close, is there anything that you want to promote or, put out there for yourselves or in this forum?
No. I have no idea. No idea. No.
If people want to follow up or find you, or maybe you don't want them to find you, DJ, what's a good spot for? Is it LinkedIn, socials, anything that's good for people to find you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on socials. The weird thing with my job is that most of the time I can't talk about what I'm currently working on, and so. So by the time then it's like, oh yeah, a year ago I was in Amsterdam. Like, I'm not gonna take a photo. I'm not gonna share that photo then, So so I am on socials when something's interesting enough, or my wife reminds me to do it. Obviously IMDb will always show you sort of what I'm currently working on. But yeah, I think we're all reachable by socials, whether it's any of those.
So IMDb is not only for going, who is that actor? What did I see them in? That's not what it's for? That's amazing.
There are some connection points there. And they have a thing called a star meter, which is literally like a gut check of how important or unimportant you are. And it moves daily. It's like, it's so awful.
Well, to us, you're a 10-star, bub.
Wait for the Elvis doc to come out.
There we go. Yeah, there we go. The Pastor Elvis will be a big one. In Search of the King. So that'll be a good one.
Well, awesome, DJ. But thanks so much, brother. And thanks for those of you tuning in. I am Travis. That is Josh. This is the Success Leaves Clues special edition podcast for Limitless Minds. Josh, take us out.
Well, continue to watch us. Continue limitlessminds.com. You can find us on there. Obviously, this is the podcast. You can find us on YouTube or any of the other podcast forms. But here's what I'm going to say. Always remember and never forget, you don't have to be sick to get better.